Kozambo, and welcome to Dawai Kudroen. My guest tonight is an invitee of not just BBS but a joint invitation extended to Chime Wangdi, who is the General Secretary of Tarayana Foundation. Chime Wangdi is an invitee of GNH Commission, UN office here in Thimphu, and BBS. As discussed or as conversed already in our Zonka session, we'll be talking about post 2015 agenda, and maybe we'd also like to look back at the progress of Millennium Development Goal. And the reason why we have Chime Wangdi here tonight is simply because Tarayana Foundation has been working in so many remote areas, and while they work in remote areas, they would have known the living conditions, the ground realities in remote villages, and that I think we need to put into perspective by having Chime here in our studio. Chime, thank you so much for your time. We're talking about post 2015, or rather say Millennium Development Goal. If you look at it holistically, what do you think the achievements made so far, development wise? There's so many things to talk about: social equalities, violence against women, all these issues. If you had to sum up.
I think Bhutan is fortunate that we have a guiding development philosophy that's quite different from the rest of the world. I wouldn't call it unique only to Bhutan, because ultimately all human beings, I guess everyone on this planet, seeks happiness as its end goal. That being so, I think Bhutan is about the only country that's brave enough or naive enough to think that we can actually achieve it. And I think that has worked very well for us, because having that as a backdrop for all of our development considerations in selecting our programs, in selecting our activities and initiatives, being guided by that lens of GNH, is it more holistic than just going in a linear thought process? Yes. I think that has served us well. And Bhutan has made remarkable progress in the few short years of our development history. Having said that, of course, there's always a lot that still needs to be done, and you've pointed out yourself also that areas like income equality, more the income disparity at the moment, I think we cannot have a country that's functioning with so many different levels of pay scales. I think that's already beginning to classify citizens into either you earn more, you earn less. So that gap, when that widens, for me that's a bigger worry factor than just poverty per se.
Yes.
Because poverty or the lack of anything, that is sort of very perception driven, and we all perceive ourselves to be somewhere in that continuum, whether rich, poor, in between. But it's still a perception.
Yes.
Because I haven't yet come across an individual who honestly, truly thinks he or she is poor. They're very generous. There's generosity of spirit. There's generosity in their thinking, in their giving, in their willingness to help their neighbor and reach out. So, and that is more visible in the rural areas,
Yes,
where material wealth is sort of the least. So even as we develop and we're able to meet all of these different goals that we've set out globally on a global agenda and nationally linking up towards that, and I think somewhere in between we have to also acknowledge that there was this SARC development goals,
yes,
which were more detailed and more slightly more ambitious than the MDGs itself. But that actually clearly spelled out how we could reach to these MDGs in a more definite manner.
Yes.
But because there's not much talk about the SARC development goals, I think we kind of bypass that in most cases, and country plans are drawn up based on so-called MDGs. Yes. But in our context, I think Bhutan has done very well on all of these 8 program points, the goals that have been set on a global agenda. Yet
yes,
much needs to be done as we move beyond 2015.
Yes. Chime, talking about income disparity, Now, there's no doubt that rich should become richer. But again, the ownership, or rather, rich should also assume some moral responsibility to make the poor richer, so that there will be a lesser gap between haves and have-nots. Is it happening?
I think those who have are still in the business of wanting more. So I don't know whether I can honestly call them rich in the spirit, because while they are materially rich, something erodes, I think, also. Yes. And that's more fundamentally,
that could be more important.
The fundamentally a better caring, giving nature. But just recently we had this wonderful Wangchen in Punakha, and there was this huge outpouring of generous people, lots of offerings, and which is very well appreciated. But like for me, I work in Tarayana, a place where it's very difficult to fundraise. And you wonder, is it only that you will try and bribe the gods somehow? Or is there some sense in actually helping a fellow human being along the way as well? You know, so there's a little bit of a mismatch in what we hope to do, because I guess it's to earn good karma that you make these offerings. But at the same time, wouldn't it also be equally, good in earning positive karma by giving to those who need it more? Anyway, that's me. That's someone who has been trying on this fundraising circuit for a while. Internally, it's been quite difficult to actually raise. But then that has also taught us that at least at Tarayana, we say it's not about the money. It's about the need, the intentions being right. It's about the entire communities that we serve. They have to buy into this concept of what they need to do for themselves. So half the work, or more than half the work, is actually done by themselves. Yes. So it's more about facilitation. So we are able to achieve more with less, simply because the communities support these programs, because they want it. They take total ownership of the programs that are being implemented in their own locality.
Yes, and that could be more effective in that.
That makes a big difference, because, I mean, otherwise they're waiting. The traditional way was wait until some outsiders come and help them, but they will not lift their little finger to help themselves. Yes. And I don't think we want to have a nation of people who are waiting in that manner. When we first started on the trek, I had the opportunity of accompanying Her Majesty Ajdojo Mocho to almost all of these rural sites. Yes. And it was rather pathetic scene there, because while they had bountiful, nature was providing them with a lot of good things, the community themselves had the sense of absolute contentment of really not doing anything. Yes. Just drink and stay the whole day, and they were content. So it kind of, when Tarayana came about, because there was a lot of poverty there, their living conditions were really, really poor. And so there was something, because the government policies were all there, but in that implementation and reaching out to these far-flung villages must have been a challenge for anyone. And so I guess they were being left behind. And that was something Her Majesty pointed out, that we couldn't leave them behind, that we had to bring them along. And so that's the birth of Tarayana. That's how Tarayana came about. Yes. Formally, it was launched only in 2003, but informally, activities and programs were being thought of even as early as 98, 99.
Yes. Maybe two things that I would like to ask you. One is on the health services that we have. Mm-hmm. Another one would be on the educational services that we have in our country. We enjoy both free health service and both free education services in our country. And I've not seen many countries enjoy that. We are so fortunate to enjoy all this. Yet when it comes to delivering the services that is desired and required by the people, are we on right track?
I think that this is
maybe
sort
you
of
as a you as a Bhutanese, we would like to hear from our own Bhutanese observers although we have the syndrome of listening to foreigners more than our own people.
Yeah, it's two large topics, two very big questions as well, Dawa. But my observation of the health service here in Bhutan, I think we are very fortunate that we have free health, including referrals outside, should the care not be sufficient, for those patients. And it's amazing that a country that's an LDC, that's a small country that's supposed to be one, overall income is not that high, but to have focused so much on the social transfer, the well-being office people, putting people first. And so that was what healthcare did, prolonged life, reduced suffering. Our immunization programs have been excellent. And all of the medication that's free. And it breaks my heart when I see some people just complain all the time about maybe they're not happy with the paracetamol that is being provided from the hospital, but then maybe then they should try buying some on their own. But those who have the money, they go outside and spend it on, and they're quite happy paying a lot of money for services that are being provided free in country. And then we have a balance of payment issue all around. So it's sort of a little bit of a strange beast altogether, because the system, the healthcare delivery system itself, I think really needs a serious relook. Why are our health professionals not happy? Why are they really not satisfied with what's going on? I think it should be open to debate. It should be a lot more can be achieved, because the intention of providing free health care, we have the health trust fund, we have all of those things in place because the well-being of the people is important. Yes. And likewise for education also, free education. And we had, I don't know, just yesterday I think the BBS programs were showing that some of the schools in remote areas didn't have students and things like that. It's all about a little bit of planning of HR. I mean, it's not as if, again, in the Dzongkha section, we did talk about different sectors not talking to each other. All the data is there already. We know in advance, like the kid comes to school only when they're 6. So we know their birth is registered. Those information, why isn't that coming across? And we're already prepared. If it's not going to be there, then you have to organize and reduce the numbers accordingly. If there's going to be an outflow of people due to various reasons, it's not as if it sort of just happens and you're caught unawares. Yes. The trend is there, so I guess we have to be a little bit more cautious, how would you say, more intelligent about how we use the data and information that's available to us. And currently we don't use much data. I think we just go by assumptions most of the times. Yes. And that's sort of quite sad, because the information is there. And if it isn't there, it should be there. And that would help us plan. And we won't be caught with having so many schools, no students, or overcrowding of schools here in Thimphu because of too many kids. So all of that, I think, is management issues. So those could be debated, could be sorted out. Nothing that a good system can't take care of, and very quickly also at that.
Yes. It's very important that we involve people at grassroots levels for any decision, major decisions, for their own benefit. But as of now, our policymakers have always been good talkers and bad listeners, one would say. And it's important that some good ideas come from people in grassroots level, people back in far-flung remote villages. They have some fantastic, wonderful ideas for themselves because they have been struggling on those fields. They've been struggling in that environment. They know what is good for them and what is bad for them. Are we now prepared to listen to them, or have we started listening to them?
I cannot talk for the government, and I cannot talk for well, the larger system, but at Tarayana, that is how we do it. We listen. We have to. Otherwise, if there is no local ownership of the programs and plans that are being implemented, we don't really get far. So in order to be able to implement something that's workable, you have to listen. And listening is initially quite difficult because you think you know because you're the educated one, or you're the one with the training, and you're the one who might be able to bring in a little bit of money, and so the temptation of not listening is always there. But it's a discipline. You have to make yourself sit there and listen to them, really truly listen, because the ideas, like you say, fantastic ideas come from them. And I don't know where we have this concept of the poor being, you can't put them in a box and call them they're poor, pathetic, can't do anything for themselves. And that's absolutely rubbish, because there is no such category. They come with a sharp mind, they have their hands, it's just the opportunities that they need. And we have to be able to facilitate in such a way that we're able to give, recognize their strengths and then build up on their strength. Once they have the confidence, then there's no stopping them.
Yes.
And so maybe this whole thing of how we can tackle the poverty issue,
Yes.
I don't know. I sometimes open my mouth and get myself into a lot of trouble, because we have a lot of poverty experts who discuss poverty issues in the ambiances of five-star hotels. And I think the days for those are gone. Particularly in a place like Bhutan, I think we should have no room for that anymore.
Go to the field.
Much as I would enjoy the ambiances that's provided, I would rather that money is actually spent in programs in the field that will benefit the communities directly.
Rather than spending in...
Rather than academicians and a lot of talkers and policymakers deciding and assuming it on behalf of the so-called poor. So it has to be about, if it is anything about them, they should be included, and we should listen, truly listen to what they have to say and bring to the table also, and we're talking about the post
2015.
2015. I was thinking of a few areas, at least at Tarayana, these are the areas that we consider being important. Yes. And we're already starting to gear ourselves in trying to improve their general well-being in a more holistic manner. And so food and nutrition security seems to really stare us in the face. We've had issues in some of our schools. I don't think it's an issue of there not being sufficient stipend. It's more of the imbalances, maybe, yes, of how we look after our children or how we feed them. And let's start from the household itself. Bhutanese love to eat a lot of rice. And a huge heap of rice eaten with a few chilies is not wholesome meal. I mean, where are the nutrients, the vitamins, whatever, that's required to give you a well-balanced development and growth. So from that nutritional aspect, I think it's important. And also, this is particularly important in an agrarian society like ours, to pay attention to the resource utilization in that sector. I think in the past few years, we've had absolutely no interest from our politicians or from anywhere, I think, in how agriculture develops in this country. And if farmers, at least 60 or 69% of them depend on agriculture for their everyday engagements, that is how we can keep people gainfully engaged. We need to pay more attention to what's happening in that sector as well, I think. So food and nutrition, linking that with gainful employment is one area that really requires further attention, moving beyond the Millennium Goals. And there's also the issue of water security. That's going to continue to be a dominant big player, I would think. Yes. So water security linked with that would be our sanitation, hygiene, all of that, that whole nexus, I think it'll still continue to be very, very important. We were also looking at personal health and hygiene, because you can have a wonderful health service, but if your own personal habits are bad, your eating habits, your lifestyle, because now, I mean, from the latest figures, I think our lifestyle diseases are really, diabetes and all of the other heart diseases and cholesterol issues, and I don't know, part of it might be genetics, but I think a lot has to do with healthy choices, lifestyle choices also. So those sort of areas where earlier we were just looking, I guess, at the immediate health issues, malaria and the other diseases, yes. But maybe these are also some of the softer side that needs to be tackled together. Yes. And we talked earlier about gender equality, the gap between the income disparity being another issue. In Bhutan in particular, maybe the urban and rural divide is going to also be another factor that is quite alarming, because the children in urban areas, they have access to a lot of information, they have access to technology, computers, internet, both good and bad of it.
Yes.
Whereas our rural children don't have such access. And then when they have to compete for the same scholarships and for the same jobs, I mean, where is the even playing field? So when you look at all of those things, I think there's still a lot of work to be done in those areas. And earlier you were asking about the quality of education. I really think that's a big, big question and warrants a separate discussion all on its own. But having said that, the focus in the early development, the early years as toddlers, I think that's still an area that, at least as far as Tarayana is concerned, we will be concentrating on more of our BUZIP programs and expanding that to reach out to all of our communities.
Yes. Post 2015, there are lots of challenges that we need to face, but at the same time, the plans and programs that you have just shared, are you comfortable with it? Do you think you can implement all this?
We hope so. I mean, this entire millennium thing became more or less top-down. There wasn't really much emphasis on who was actually going to implement and how and when and why. So we hope that the lessons learned from the implementation processes here would actually guide us as we move post 2015 and at least be able to identify that and say and put on record that local players are important,
Yes.
that the implementation has to be at the local level. And it's only when the local, the ownership lies more with the local communities themselves that things will happen. And we can truly say, and therefore the requirement for too many experts would reduce drastically. Maybe we need good facilitators, we need people who can converse and who can engage with the local communities so that the strengths of the communities can be harnessed and used for their own development. But other than that, I think so-called, maybe a few academicians might still make a good, help us put all of this together in neat reports and things like that. But
Yes.
in the actual implementation, I would like and hope and pray that there would be more local players, including NGOs like Tarayana.
Yes. Chime, final question. When we talk about development or any issue for now, we just say that things are better now, it should have been better in the past, things have not gone so well in the past, but sometimes as an anchor I tend to wonder why we put all the blame on the past, because even in the past we have had, under the benevolent leadership of His Majesty the Fourth King, we had the wonderful system and we have progressed so well. And today when we look back at all this, we comfortably say that, well, this is what has happened in the past, now we are doing so well. So what do you think?
I think that's human nature. We just like to fix the blame somewhere, whether it's in the past or in the future, but and we clearly forget to take the blame on ourselves and the choices that we've made ourselves. I guess every age has its high points, and for Bhutan, I think our glorious period was during the reign of His Majesty the Fourth King as well, and we hope that it will continue on as we go into this new system, democratic system. We hope that there will be more democratic processes that are honored. We know that the institutions are working. We've seen it in action. Maybe everyone's on a very steep learning curve, sharp learning curve, but nevertheless, all are eager to play their parts sensibly. Hopefully it will remain sensible and that it doesn't get politicized too much. Having said that, I think this tendency of blaming each other or the past is really no good. For me, I like to look at it from a family unit point of view, as family being the center of all things, either good or bad. Because it's within the family that you learn your values, you learn a lot of, the support system, the network, all of that is within the individual. So if you're talking about equality and domestic violence issues and things like that, a lot of it can be addressed in each homes if the mothers in the homes or the sisters, the daughters of the houses, if they were treated equally and taught at an early stage that, you know, intolerance of certain behaviors, intolerance of certain things, we could go a long way. So as a woman, I'd like to say that we can't blame everything on to outside also. We have to introspect, look within and see how can we make this change? How can it happen? But it has to be from within. It cannot be something that we're not going to suddenly get a savior from outside and say, okay, all women will be protected under this particular act or that. It's still going to be within the closed doors of the home, what happens there. So the women in the house there has to have the confidence of being able to bring the change, the agenda of change there.
So, Chime Wangdi, as honest as ever, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
I
for
would have
having
had
me here.
so many other questions as well, but in the interest of time, I'll have to stop here. But this is not the end of our program here. BBS, in collaboration with the UN office here in Thimphu and also in collaboration with the GNH Commission, we are going to bring series of programs, not just from Thimphu, but even other regions will be covered as well on similar topic. And coming Sunday, we'll be bringing you a panel discussion with the topic GNH is going to shape the future of this country. Until then, it's time to say good night. Thank you so much for watching.